Hey everybody, it's Breaking the 180 here with a bit of early fall gloom as you can see, but we're actually just trying to copy the color scheme of what we just watched, which is David Fincher's new film, The Killers. The Killer. I'm thinking about
Ah,
the band. No, the Killer on Netflix, which is streaming now, so you don't have
as
to go
we
hunt it. Yeah.
we literally just rolled credits, and it's very good. It's very good. It is as
Right.
the
Yeah.
expression goes, a return to form for Fincher. His last film was Mank, which I was kind of disappointed by. I mean, it's still Fincher, so very meticulous, and you get great actors. The score by Trent Reznor, it's very jazzy. It's great. Charles Dance plays Hearst, and that's such a great performance. But since then, silence. Manhunter has not been renewed, so he went back to his.
Mindhunter, yeah, which is an
Oh,
excellent show
that's
on
right,
Netflix. Yeah.
Mindhunter, Manhunter. I'm thinking Michael
Michael
Mann.
Mann, yeah.
Um, but this is kind of him returning to the kind of not gritty, but the Fincher-esque criminal element.
It reunites Fincher with screenwriter Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote his first big hit, 1995's Seven, and it's not as gruesome as Seven, but it is in that same tradition of a tight story where the editing is it builds to just a great tight rhythm. Not a scene is wasted. The character, it's all about the character, and it's a
The
very nice
titular
return to form.
killer, which is the name of the film, Michael Fassbender, who has seemingly disappeared from
Yeah.
Hollywood. I don't know if he's just been doing smaller
We haven't seen him
films.
in a while either until now. Yeah.
But I think one thing that struck both of us during this movie, a lot of similar movies are within the realm of kind of thriller, revenge thriller, that kind of thing. There's always some scene where our protagonist lets a bad guy go because they have a change of heart, or this ultra professional badass suddenly just like becomes an amateur.
Yeah.
And one thing this film does very well is when you watch this guy go after his targets, you keep thinking, oh, well, he should just like finish them off and not give them a chance. And again, it's not spoiling anything, but he does what a
Yeah.
professional would do.
Well, well, I'll put it this way. Fincher takes the stereotype of the movie assassin. You know how in movies, assassins are somehow Renaissance men who speak multiple languages and are world traveled and can choose where to have fine dining on the level of Frasier, of Kelsey Grammer as Frasier Crane. And they're always like wandering philosophers. And there's a bit of that in this movie, but turned on its head. You do have Michael Fassbender have these very metaphysical monologues about life and death and fate and how many people are born a day around the world. And then he tries to give you the moral justifications for why he's an assassin. But it's also laced with dark comedy because at the same time it's very self-contradictory. So without spoiling, he meticulously details how he plans a killing or checks his pulse rate to make sure that the pull of the trigger, gives enough force to the bullet to go through glass. But then 1 millisecond causes a mistake that throws off his whole plan. And it's all believable. It's all wonderful. It's almost like what Nolan did with Batman in this sense. Two completely different movies, but in this sense. Fincher's thinking, okay, what if one of these highly cultured super assassins really did exist and walk around the world? And like you were saying, like exposition, I mean, he really is just like a working machine,
So there are a
you know?
couple of points that really encapsulate why I like this movie and why this stands out.
You can see us wave.
There we
Okay,
go.
okay.
So,
Had a bit of
so
an
we're
internet
sitting. Yes,
snafu right there,
yes.
yeah.
Internet just took a pause. No, one thing you talked about, the kind of walking, talking everyman, uh, the way he flips it on his head. For example, he tries to, make some philosophical statement, but then doesn't remember who wrote it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of the kind of international man who gets around, you actually see how he does it instead
Yes.
of movies where even the best spy thrillers they just show up in locations and you're just like aren't like there
Yeah.
assassins after these people, like aren't they going to get flagged? They actually show you that, but in a way that's not boring. If there's one thing, at least for me, I've always appreciated about Fincher, I'm never bored by any of his
Yeah.
films, and this is certainly no exception. This film, well, it's one of his shorter films,
Oh yes, it's only almost 2 hours to the
minute,
to
and
the
there's not
minute.
a
Yeah.
wasted second. I mean, we were shocked. The Netflix logo starts, and then it just starts the credits, and then
And
it moves on.
I would rank it up there with his. He's known for these huge
Ah,
films like
and for
Benjamin
people just
Button.
joining us, we're talking about David Fincher's The Killer, his new film that just released on Netflix.
I've always enjoyed his style overall, but he is best known for his big movies, right? Benjamin Button, Mank, Fight Club, of course, is probably his most influential movie. Social Network is lower budget, but it's still about a big historical moment in a way, right? The founding of Facebook. This one is his best small film since Panic Room. If any of you remember that 2002 thriller he did, where Jodie Foster's a wealthy divorcee who's in her panic room with her daughter, watching these thieves enter the house. It's a really tight Hitchcockian movie, and I don't say that as a cliche. It really is a movie modeled on Hitchcock. This one I would compare to, in a way, to a classic, a French film, Les Samurai, which just follows an assassin like this guy on his daily routine, and then he has to deal with a cleanup, let's say, with a cleanup situation. And this one has that same realism mixed with the suspense and the thrills. Steven Soderbergh apparently helped with the editing, so it's got that really interesting clarity, like that big fight scene with the big guy in
Oh,
Florida.
so it's I'm glad you pointed that out. This is not, and I repeat, so people don't go in with the wrong idea, like many did with Killers of the Flower Moon,
Yeah, yeah.
the fantastic Scorsese movie that released a month ago. This is not an action movie. This is a drama that has some action elements.
It's a
It's not.
character study.
It's a character study, but about two-thirds the way through the movie, there is an absolutely brilliantly shot fight. And for any aspiring directors or stunt people, this is kind of a masterclass in how to make a very stylized fight scene. Now, it's not like John Wick. John Wick is ballet, right? It is violent ballet. This is a more realistic fight, but with a lot of style and
Well,
clarity.
there's no crazy fireworks to it. It's
Yes.
it's a it's almost literally bone crunching. In fact, I would, if Soderbergh did help with the editing, and we'll double confirm that for you for a future broadcast. Uh, there's a bit of this of what he did in the action film Haywire, which famously combined the Soderbergh style, this very stark, down to earth tone with a an action thriller, and it's edited in that same way where you can see clearly how the fight is developing, how where each punch is going, how one guy ends up sliding into the bathroom and getting shot. It's
You know what it
it's very
reminds me of?
virtuoso filmmaking. Yeah,
It's like Skyfall.
yeah, yeah. A
Very
little bit
much
like Skyfall.
it's stylized and elegant for the kind of movie it is, but very, very clear. I'm the kind of person that would get motion sick when clearly your actors aren't doing the stunts or you don't have a good camera team to know how to cover
Yeah,
the stunt double. So no, very impressive.
and that is the most believable Bond in a way. Skyfall. But
Yeah,
it's kind of the same idea where you watch Skyfall, and of course, I mean, Bond has so many great movies, but Skyfall is the one where you watch it and you think, okay, this guy really existed. This would probably be how things would pan
exactly.
out and play out, and this one,
And it's
another.
also funny.
Yes, this one is actually more of a dark comedy. Fincher, it's funny.
Well,
Fincher,
let's rephrase dark comedy. It has dark comedic elements. Again, we
yes,
don't want to give people the wrong idea,
it's
but
not,
the
it's not
funny
a.
moments I did. There was one line that actually made me laugh out loud.
Oh yes, there's a couple actually. There's a couple of really good lines that are really funny, but this one, it's got that special kind of Fincher humor. He's known of course for his visual style and also the violence in his movies, but he doesn't always get credit for this interesting dry sense of humor he has. Now, you're right. This one isn't like as comedic as, let's say, Fight Club, which
Or
Fight Club is laugh out loud funny in a lot of it. No, this is like a more subtle, uh almost British kind of humor that's
excellent point. Yes,
that's just kind of trickled throughout.
like dark.
Yes,
It's
and
so dark and kind of morbid that it becomes funny.
yes,
It forces a reaction out of you, and I think that's the brilliance of it.
even in the soundtrack. We
Even in
have
the
to
soundtrack,
mention the fact that this movie is also, this is going to sound weird, but trust me when I say it's almost a celebration of the Smiths. Like it's a celebration as well of Morrissey and the Smiths, and if you watch the movie you'll know what we mean by that,
well,
because this,
also a celebration of Trent Reznor, who's a
yes,
frequent collaborator.
another really good Atticus Ross Trent Reznor score. Yeah, 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 yeah.
If you've heard any of their albums, especially with Fincher, you can kind of get an idea of what you're going to get. But they add that kind of dark heaviness.
Well, it's almost like a an electronic soundscape, right? That they create this. It's a combo of rhythm and ambience. It really is
Yes,
more about the atmosphere, but in a great way where it never gets in the way of the movie. It gives
it
it, yeah, it
supports.
supports without taking over. It doesn't feel like Fincher is shooting or editing to the score, right? It feels more like it's just the final piece that he needs to give it that feel. Um, it's a nice comeback all around, including for Fassbender, who again I think is a great actor, but we don't see much of him. And here you see him perform with just
It's a
expressions a
very
lot.
physical for multiple kinds of ways. It's almost a silent performance,
Yeah,
and the richness of the world actually comes from everyone who talks to him.
yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, you get a lot from what he says without speaking.
He's like a transmitter in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, there's a point where he meets a character played by Tilda Swinton who gives a 5 minute monologue, but it's still a dialogue.
Well, because he says everything with his look. And if you see the movie, you'll know what I mean by that, where you see how he's taking in the information and reacting to it.
Or choosing not to react or give anything away.
Right. Through his face, through what the eyes are saying, which is way harder than just delivering a line. That's,
Forcing a
yeah,
line, making someone say something to fill the space.
very, very excellent, well crafted movie based on a graphic novel, actually. So if you want to make comparisons uh, between source material and how it's transferred to cinema, this is a really fun one to take a look at, because the graphic novel, the best elements of it are in the movie, and yet Fincher has completely made it his own. You don't have to read the book to get the movie. Um, but the movie is a nice introduction to the graphic novel if you want to check it out. It's readily available on Amazon under the same name, The Killer. I believe it's a series actually. There's like
Oh,
several.
interesting.
There's like several uh, volumes. So yeah,
One other thing we'll mention before we go, Eric Messerschmidt, who was the cinematographer, gorgeous film. It's that kind of stylized beauty that doesn't distract you, but it envelops you.
Oh, it's all
It's
environment.
it's
It creates
so great.
it's
There's
you
the
know.
opening of the movie is Fassbender's The Killer planning an assassination, and the source light, it's like a construction light, but the way that it's filmed, it gives him this like beautiful glow right before this serious moment. It's just great throughout the whole movie. Very, it's a Fincher movie, so it has those very particular colors, but the way they play with light is quite great.
Oh,
And we found out it's you'll be seeing his work later this year in Ferrari,
Michael Mann. Yeah, 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 yeah.
who's working with Eric Messerschmidt.
Oh yes, no. I mean, the guy's a great DP, and you can tell why these very visual directors love to work with him. Fincher's work has always been beautifully baroque, and this one is another notch on his belt in visual beauty. Mank was also visually rich. Whatever its clunkiness in the script or in the final product, Fincher is never visually boring. Going back to his first movie ever, Roger Ebert famously called Alien 3 the best looking bad movie he had ever seen. So from
It's
the
true.
beginning, and Fincher, of course, got to start with music videos, and he did some that are now iconic, like Madonna's Vogue. He also filmed Judith for Perfect Circle, and before we go, I'll just say, if you really want to see the origins of David Fincher, just look up his anti-smoking ad. And that's all I'm going to say. Just look up David Fincher's anti-smoking ad, which is what really put him on the map in bygone times. Uh, well, everybody, we hope you check out The Killer. We're gonna be coming back with some excellent reviews of other goodies coming up for the holiday season, including little holiday nod at Thanksgiving, uh, courtesy of Mr. Eli Roth, and we're also going to be giving a little preview of Todd Haynes' May December. Uh,
As
yeah,
well as a little peek into Vin Vendor's second release
of the year,
of the
yeah.
year. So that is coming up, and probably in about 5 minutes, we are going to collect our notes for Heat.
Heat, yes. So
So,
we've got that coming up. Our uh, big crescendo episode in a way of the series. We still have a lot more to say about Michael Mann, but this one we've been giving special care to and preparing because it is the defining Michael Mann film in many ways. And however Ferrari turns out, Heat is going to continue enduring. So we're going to talk about everything Heat, everything Michael Mann, and everything even Heat 2, which he just announced as his follow up to
there
Ferrari.
you go, which is based
Yeah,
on a book that he wrote last year.
which we voraciously consumed.
It's true.
Uh,
So, all that good
yeah.
stuff coming up. But in the meantime, thanks for tuning in. We have our links somewhere. I forgot how Instagram has the layout. And leave us a comment, leave us a review,
Remember to like us, leave your comments, whether you agree with us or not.
especially
Uh,
if you disagree.
Especially if you disagree, especially since The Killer is readily accessible now. If you have a Netflix account or access to someone's Netflix account, The Killer can now be streamed.
Indeed. But for now, we are going to sign off. So till next time, everybody, take care.
Have a great
Bye
one.
bye.